The events of 9/11 were some of the worst the world has ever seen. They helped shape the world we know today in ways you have never known. But before the triumph came the tragedy. The morning of the 11th started like any other Tuesday for the people of New York. The sounds of traffic and the hustle and bustle of everyday life filled the streets. Over 17,000 people filled the floors of the World Trade Center and got to work on what seemed like a perfect day. At 8:14 a.m., a seemingly ordinary flight from Boston, Massachusetts took off en route to Los Angeles. This flight carried 65 people, including Christine Hansen, a 2-year-old, and her family, who were on their way to Disneyland. Unfortunately, they would never make it. At around 9:02, Flight 175 became the second plane to hit the World Trade Center. Over the course of the next few hours, 2 more planes would be hijacked. One of these planes was believed to have been on its way to the White House, and another ending its short flight in the Pentagon.
What happened? It collapsed. The top floors collapsed down. I saw it blow and then ran like hell. Thank God I'm 69, but I can still run.
At 10:07 a.m., passengers and crew members aboard the hijacked Flight 93 retaliated against the hijackers. This forced them to crash land into a field located in Pennsylvania. Later, researchers found out this was the plane that was intended to hit the White House.
The amateur video was recorded by Dave Berkebile, who lived nearby. While he was taping the cloud of smoke, Berkebile described what he saw.
I just saw the smoke come up, and the explosion shook the house clear over here. They ran one into the Pentagon and into the World Trade Center, and we're watching it on TV, and this one happened.
Thousands of police, fire, rescue officials have converged on the scene. There are, and we don't know how many, injured to be tended to be taken to hospitals, and we continue to check hospitals to find out how many, the extent of injuries. We do not yet know how many fatalities.
I've never heard of that outfit before either, but
there is the scene. This is tape now from WABC here in New York. Their crews shot this picture. As you see, fire trucks and firefighters, rescue personnel at the Trade Center about 30 blocks from where we are right now. And you can see these huge columns of smoke coming off of the front tower and then a bit from the back.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America.
On May 1st, 2011, almost a decade after the deadly hide-and-seek game started by Osama bin Laden had begun, SEAL Team 6 members board two Black Hawk helicopters heading to a location known to only few. After a short flight, they arrive at a small compound surrounded by walls topping 10 feet. This is the compound of Osama bin Laden, who had run and hid to stay away from the U.S. military. A firefight lasting over an hour ensues, leaving 4 dead. Bin Laden has been killed with a shot to the head landing just above his eye. The West's war on terrorism had finally yielded positive results.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
So you start on the first floor, make your way up to the third?
We started on the first floor. They cleared that. There was, at the end of a long hallway on the first floor was a barricaded door, which is another sign that someone important is inside. The guys ahead of me, they used their methods of entry, a couple different attempts, and they opened it. And then we started going up the stairs from the first floor to the second floor. On the way up, the analyst had told us we would run into Khalid bin Laden, Osama bin Laden's son, and she said if we see him, that he's the last line of defense. Mm-hmm. Well, if he's armed, and he was armed, and so he was, we eliminated the threat there, continued up to the second floor, and when we got, I was about 8 guys, the 8th guy back maybe. Once we got to the second floor, the guys in front of me, all except for the one man, started to clear the threats on the second floor. We're going to secure that floor until we move up. So I moved my way up to the second position behind the first man, and he was pointing up the stairs to the third floor. And there was a curtain on the top of the floor, and there was some movement behind it with unknown silhouettes. He was getting concerned that they would have explosives or putting on vests or they're rigging something, and he was letting me know, not me know, letting the guy behind him know that it just turned out to be me, that there was a threat at the top of the stairs and we need to go now. I wanted more people, but he was spot on, so I gave him a squeeze on his shoulder. He went up, I went up behind him. We went through the curtain. The threats, the unknowns turned out to be some females. He sort of grabbed onto them and he pushed them a little bit down the hallway, falling on them to absorb the blast that he knew was going to happen, so he gave his life so the guy behind him could get a shot. From there, when he pushed the women, I turned to the right into a doorway, and the doorway led to a bedroom, and in the bedroom was Osama bin Laden, a matter of feet in front of me. And he had his hands on his wife's shoulders. He was not surrendering. He was sort of moving, and just based on the level of threat of him not surrendering and the likelihood of him having a vest, I engaged him. I shot him twice in the head. He fell on the floor. I shot him one more time, and I killed him.
In many regards, this becomes a triumph of massive proportions. People who had lived in grief and sorrow could finally find some closure, knowing their family did not die in vain, and the coward who orchestrated the attacks that killed their son, daughter, wife, husband, or parent was finally vanquished.